Today's video is how to color faces using alcohol markers. So I have a variety of different alcohol markers, including Arrtx, Ohuhu, and Loft, and I'm going to be using each of these markers to color in these faces. So you're going to get to see different alcohol markers being used and how they work. They all kind of work the same. I like them all. I have a lot of Arrtx, bunch of Ohuhu, and a bunch of Loft. So those are the three brands that I have that I'm going to be using. And I'm not going to be sketching faces. I'm using the pages from my ebook called Faces and Figures Sketches by Krista, Irene. So this ebook is not a how to draw ebook. It's more of examples of different sketches. So there's a lot of, I kind of broke it up so I could show you. But I have a bunch of different faces that I drew that you can use to color or trace and just see how I do the sketches. So you can draw your own faces, or you can if you have my ebook, you can follow along with that. I have a bunch of figure sketches as well. So this is just an ebook of drawings and sketches, as well as how I map out the face as I'm drawing it, so you can kind of just see my process. I've had people ask about my process, so that's what this downloadable book is. But we're going to get started with this face. You can draw a face and follow along if you want, or download the book. I'll include a link in the comments and in the description if you're interested in the book. The other thing I wanted to mention was the type of paper. Normally when I am drawing and sketching, I get a lot of people ask me. I use Hilroy Studio Pro sketchbook. I get the larger size, but they have a whole bunch of different sizes. I think I've mentioned that this is a Canadian, I'm Canadian, so this is, I believe it's a Canadian brand, Hilroy. So hope you can probably get it. I've seen it on Amazon, so hopefully you can find it there. I just really like how many pages come in this book. I like how big it is. There's a whole bunch of different sizes, but I really like the big one. The other thing I wanted to mention is the fact that when you're using alcohol markers, the reason why I like this paper is because it's thin, and if I'm using thicker paper, it's going to soak up all the ink, and I don't want to waste any ink. You can even use printer paper, and that's one of the things I say, like this, I printed it off using my printer, and so this is just printer paper, and that's what I'm going to use as I show you how to color faces using alcohol markers. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments, but I am going to get started. And I am going to start with the lightest shade that I have for skin tones. And there's lots of different skin tones. Additionally to all the different shades of skin tones, you can have fun shading in faces in any shade you want. I mean, there's all sorts of different colors you can use, so don't be shy. Play around with different colors. Okay, so one of the things I like to do when I'm using my alcohol markers is just test it out, because different paper, the marker will look sort of a different color. Okay, I'm going to start with this Arrtx marker, and I'm just going to shade in the face. This was printed on my printer, so I don't expect that the ink is going to smudge. So I don't mind if there's smudge marks or lines showing, because you can do a lot of different layers. And I don't necessarily like to color the entire face. I do oftentimes like to leave in some white spots, but it looks like I'm going a little crazy here. Okay, so this is her arm, so I'm gonna color that in. And that's just the first layer with your alcohol marker, and that's it. The first layer. Okay, so I've got that. Now I want to go in with a bit of a darker shade. Yeah, this is an Ohuhu marker, and so there's two sides to your alcohol markers. There's the brush tip and the flat tip. I always use the brush tip. I use a flat tip if I'm drawing clothing or coloring in like large drawings, but for the face I want to have a little more control, so I use the brush tip. And when you're looking at a face, there's always going to be areas of shadow. Now some people will be like, you know, where's your light source? I really don't think of things like that. I try to think of, well, this is a hat and it's going to cause a shadow here. Like the way that her hat is going to cause a shadow. Also, certain parts of the nose are usually shadowed, the chin, under the lip, right in, you know, the sockets of the eye. So we're gonna go with that. If this is her hat, I'm going to add some shadow there. And I'm going to add a little shadow here. And I'm not doing too much shadow because I feel like this is a really dark color, so I might have to go in again with another color. But just around the eyes, the eye socket, it's going to be darker. Her hair and this hat is going to definitely cause a shadow. So I am just going with that, and I'm just outlining it because I know there's going to be shadow there. There's going to be a shadow here too, but I don't think I want to use the same marker. Under her chin would cast a shadow. So we're going to put a shadow here for now, and her hair, right? I'm going to cast a shadow. And then the other thing is I'm just going to randomly do some shadows on her arms. Now I'm going to try to find another color that's a little bit lighter than this, kind of like this color. It's more of a yellowish color, so I'm going to go over it a bit here, a little bit more, and right here where her nose is, and the tip of her nose, and underneath the nose will cause a shadow as well. And I'm going to go right over her eye here, and underneath the eye, and again where the hair is, there's going to be a shadow. But when you're using alcohol markers, there's going to be a lot of shading, and it's all about playing around. Like if I could go over this again, I wouldn't use this dark peachy color, but it is what it is. I already started with it, so I'm going to keep going. But I definitely like this color with the Arrtx marker more. Okay. Usually the cheeks are a lighter color, so I'm just going in. And I'm definitely going to get her arm there. So I'm liking that so far. Now I'm going to get a color for her face. There's a pink here. And I'm going over the whole thing with the pink. I really like that pink. That is a nice pink. And just coloring in her cheeks. I'm going to color in her lips. Why not? And I'm going to color in her nose. Probably going to do a little, and I'm just adding a little pink everywhere now, just because this is my process for coloring faces. This is just how I do it. I just have fun playing around with it. I don't want that color. Let's see, can I find like a nice, that's a nice one too. But I'm going to go over that really delicately because I don't want to, I'm going to go in the corner of the eye there. It's very similar to the color I just laid down. I'm going to go in the round of the nose and in here, like this corner part of the nose, and right under the chin, corner of the mouth. And I'm just doing a very light touch here because I kind of like the way everything blended in. One tip would be organize your colors before you get started. But here's an Artist Loft. I love these Artist Loft markers. These are the oldest ones. These are the first ones I've ever got. Well, I had Copic markers, but that was years and years ago. So now again, I'm going over it again and blending it in together. And remember, this is just printer paper, so it's not going to have the same effect as if you were using, you know, marker paper, but I don't have marker paper, and sometimes I just like using printer paper. I don't know, that's what I do. Okay, and I'm gonna get her lips colored in again, and under the neck. And you can see I'm not coloring in the whole thing over and over again. I'm just getting in certain areas. And I really like the way that looks. I do want her lips to be a little more red. So I've got another Artist Loft marker here. That one is probably a little too pink, but I am going to color in her lip, and I'm going to get some red. I wonder if I just did like a slight. Sometimes I like to bring, I think I mentioned this, the color into other parts. There, I like that. I still want a darker lip, like a really, there. And as you can see, I'm not coloring the whole thing. I'm gonna put a dot here and a dot there, maybe. Now, I also like to bring in the colors to the whole thing. So abstracted flowers, I think I've mentioned. So this coloring page that I drew, the sketch, it's really just an outline. You can make this whatever you want. So I'm making this into flowers for now. And she's got earrings on. She's got some hair. What color do I just want to give her some brown hair maybe? That's like a reddish hair, but you know what? Let's do it. And I'm just coloring in the hair. This is where her hair is. So I like the loose lines, even when I'm drawing, because I can make adjustments as needed. I can make her hair longer or shorter. You know, I can do anything I want with it because the lines are nice and loose, so you can make it your own. So that's her hair. I'm gonna add some hair there. And maybe like this. Now I'm just leaving that a little bit. I'm liking how this is turning out. I want this to be black and her hat to be black. So maybe a dark gray. So I'm using an Ohuhu marker. I find the Ohuhu markers have a really, like a lot of ink comes out. So it's way easier to color larger areas. I like the Arrtx markers and the Artist Loft markers for skin tones. It's just my preference. I just think it comes out and you can add more layers. So I think both markers are great, whatever fits your budget. The Artist Loft I like purchasing because I go to Michael's and I can just test them out at the store before I buy them and see what colors I like and what colors work for me. Ohuhu and Arrtx you buy, you know, in a group. You don't, like, it comes in a package. You don't get to purchase. I think on the Arrtx store you can get them one at a time. But usually I like to go to a local store and test out the markers. We have another art store. It's called Desairs. That's Canadian. I think it's Canadian. And I like going to Desairs as well, but it's harder for me to get there. Michael's is closer to where I live. So I like the way that looks. I like that a lot. And I do want to add something to the flowers. My chair is squeaking, so I apologize for that. Okay, I'm going to add, it's nice to have some abstract flowers there and maybe some greenery. I always like to add a little greenery. And I like the way that looks. Now I want to get back to her face. I feel like she needs a color here. Let's see what if I can find a pinky color. Ooh, I like this one. This is Arrtx. I do have the Arrtx skin tone markers. So a bunch of skin tone markers that you can use to create faces and color your faces with. So I think this is probably from the skin tone box. And I'm going to see if I could just add a little more shadow in the cheek area, but I don't want to color in the whole thing. Now just remember that there is always a shadow in the corners of the eyes, just because the eye sockets will do that. And I'm coloring in her nose, under her chin. Again, I'm going in under. Now remember, this is printer paper. I just have, now it goes through, so you'll want to have something underneath, but it's really holding up for the amount of marker that I'm putting on it, especially if you're just trying to practice your coloring and you don't want to, you know, be using, I do not like using expensive paper. I do not like it. So her earrings, I'm going to just, I know this is black with some flowers there, so I'm going to do that. And then I might add like a pop of really bright, maybe I don't want bright pink, maybe a purpley pink to go with her lips. So this is supposed to be like a flower. So I'm just going to color that in however I want. I'm going to go over her lip again one more time. I'm not coloring every part of the lip. And it might be kind of cool to add some lines for her hair there. It blends right in. All right, so I really like the way that looks. One thing I am going to do is, well, actually, I like this Arrtx black color, so I'm going to like maybe just go over her eye a bit more. And her eyebrow. Her hat should be darker in some areas, maybe. But that's okay, I'll just leave it. Okay, so I really like the way this looks. I'm going to add some white acrylic marker. I've got my white, hopefully this will work. And I'm just putting in a little dot. Normally, again, I think I've told you I use a gel pen, but my gel pen ran out of ink. So, and sometimes it's nice to add a little highlight. I'm going areas of light. The bridge of the nose. I'm just adding it back in. Just parts of the lip. Little, just tiny areas of white here, even like reflection on the cheek, the chin, and even slightly. And now I'm just trying to add random highlights to the face. I'm not thinking too much about it. And I'm tapping this marker, because this marker I've used a lot. It's also running out. I've got to stock up on my basic markers for highlights, because I use them all the time. But I really like the way that looks. I think I'm going to use, I love my acrylic markers so much that I'm using them to the point where I don't have much left. Let's see, I have this zebra fountain pen, and if you saw my video yesterday, I do like to add some scratchy marks. So I'm just going over her eyes a little bit to sort of make them pop. And I'm working on an angle here, so I do like it to stand out a bit. So I'm adding some circles there. I like the way that looks. I think I do want to find my white. What did I do with that white acrylic marker? I do this every time. I found my white acrylic marker, so I'm gonna go back over it one more time because I like the way this one really pops. And I think I said yesterday, you'll see people saying, don't add white to the eyes because there's always a shadow and you're doing it wrong if you do that. But you know what? I really like the way that it kind of looks and the way it stands out and makes my images pop. Bear has decided he approves. Okay, go on, Bear. And also I'm just going to add some white here because I feel like I overdid the pink. But overall, I really like how this turned out, and I'm probably going to do more coloring of faces with some of my drawings. But that was fun to do. And if you do have the digital download of the Faces and Figures book, which it's a downloadable ebook, and it's not a how-to, it's just my sketches and figures, but it's a great opportunity to practice coloring if you are not wanting to do any drawing. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, just let me know, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. So does Bear. Happy sketching.